High vibes and elevation. High vibes and elevation. Welcome back to The Floor is Ours. Now, to some of y'all, that means something. To whoever may come up on this YouTube page and see us, doesn't mean anything. We are The Floor is Ours, a podcast that just sparking thought, sparking a good conversation, a podcast of thinkers, a collective conscious of somewhere between ratchet and intelligence. Which one am I? I'll let you decide for yourself. My name is.
He was like, he didn't want to sound robotic and went straight for it. Cue the intro name. I'll let you decide who I am.
For those that are new here, my name is Xavier. Like I said, just here to rock with my brothers on a podcast, having a good time, enjoying ourselves. My brother.
What's up? If you don't know me already, Roberts, people call me Lamar. Definitely a pleasure to be a part of this collective right here with my brothers. Every day, different takes. Like X was saying, sometimes you may get some high elevation, sometimes you may get some low-ish. But the overall objective is, with every episode, is to be sincere, transparent. You'll never have to worry about anybody lying to you here. That's not what we do. So whether we agree, disagree, is always a mutual respect for everybody's opinion. And even if you disagree with some of the things that we say, the objective is to have a conversation. So there's no such thing as a wrong conversation. It's just how you decide to depict things. So welcome you guys to be a part of this family moving forward. Come on in here and get some of these convos.
Perspective.
Welcome, welcome. My name is Braille. They've told you everything we're about, so let's get it.
Collective consciousness between intelligence and race. We're not gonna lie to you because we just won't touch
Access denied.
So for those that do know who we are, we told you guys videos will come. We're gonna just keep building on top of it. So here's our first video, first good attempt at it, and just keep building from here. Now you guys can actually see us and be a part of the room. And if this is your first time seeing us, welcome again. Thank you. Thank you for just rocking with us. And you can find our podcast on Spotify and rock from there. Just pick up on some episodes and see what we're talking about if you want to be part of it or not. Or just be hating in the comments. We'll accept all.
Either way, you affect the algorithm in a positive way. So every time you type 5 or more words, appreciate you.
And look, there's no shortage of haters.
Yeah,
not at all. But since we're being first here on this page and talking here, subject that came to my mind, and I told my brothers, was identity and identity today, and so that's something I definitely wanted to speak about. But one practice before we get into most of our conversations, if it isn't fluff, at the first hand is we practice our 3 deep breaths. For those that are familiar, you already know what it is. For your first time, we take 3 deep breaths, get into the same frequency, energy, progression before we start our conversation. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll start 1 on me. In. Out. In. Out. In. And out. Welcome to the same vibe. We are now in the mix towards progression, towards thinking. Hopefully nobody's like, these niggas doing a cult. Just talking about breathing.
just know if you feel like that, it was his idea.
Yeah, from the jump. Go back and listen. That's why. But identity today, right? One of the biggest things, I think we are in a good spot for people figuring out who they are, how they want to identify. Even before the shift of politics right now, this is a definitely interesting time. So identity will reveal itself even more and more by people that are around you. But identity for who I am, who you are. How do I identify, right? And I ask myself as a man in today's society, how do I identify myself as, or how do I identify? I did write it down, just so I can have what I had and share with you guys. It was identify as a Black man first and foremost. Have a relationship with the Most High. Have a relationship with myself. No specific political party. I'm very family oriented, responsible, hardworking, understanding, open minded. That was my first initial things what I wrote down, and then I thought about, how does this affect my like societal identity? This means, how do I acting throughout the day? What am I doing? How am I carrying myself? With that being open minded, understanding, and hardworking, I usually try to be like the best person that I can be for those around me, in a sense. But what comes with some of those identifications pushes you in categories, and you can't help for like how you're really seen from somebody. So just hearing that, oh, a black man, okay, you could either one or two things. Then you might hear the, no political party. Oh, he's not familiar with anything. Your judgments are going to come from there. So what I want to ask God before, and it doesn't have to be the first, how you identify right now, but I want to ask, who do you guys think is how you identify at home the same as how you identify yourself out in public or within society?
For me, I would say it is. I am openly like transparent with how I feel about all situations. Extremely respectful, with not just family, but with people that are outside of the home, whether it's coworkers, whether it's friends. I try to always give the same person to everybody. There's consistency across the board. Looking at what I identify as first and foremost as a father, a hard worker, an employee, a son, a brother. So as you can see, like a lot of things are like extremely family oriented. One of the beautiful things about my place of employment now is with the people I work with, they have those same morals and values. So work has almost become an extension of family. So I can say if I reach out to one of my coworkers, and I say coworkers just for the sake of conversation because they're really extensions of family, call anybody the same way I could call friends and family I've known for 5 to 10 years. They give me that same access to where I'm like, hey, Bryce, I'm in a jam. Can you help me? Hey, Josh, I'm in a jam. Can you help me? And if they were to do the same thing, it's a mutual love and respect there. And I think that comes from being authentic to self, never changing who you are to fit into a specific crowd. Like if somebody likes you for who you are, that's how I want it to be. I don't want to be, I don't know if you guys remember Ditto from Pokemon. So where whenever you transform based off of the crowd that you're in. But I think that also plays into like when you're alone by yourself, like what motivates you to be who you are. Like, do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you want to improve on certain things? Or are you actively working towards certain stuff? And just understanding that it's okay to be you. So
Simple answer, I'd say that I think I do. I'm the same person at home as I am in society. My values are similar to you guys. Hardworking, I'm a father, family man. I try to be consistent, honest, patient. That's a big one for me right now. And transparent for the most part, as much as I can be. There's also that angle of self-development where I'm still learning things. So sometimes, lack of it may appear as lack of transparency, and I'm still working out the kinks myself. So it's like, in some areas things are imperfect with how that translates in the home place versus out in public and stuff like that. But overall, I think I've been pretty consistent in that department. But I don't in that same light, I don't know how much thought I've put into like how many things I identify with, of course there's the black man, but that's more, for me, that's more of, societal placement. So it's like, for me, I need to understand that I'm a black man, and I need to know what that means in different areas because, that determines how I need to interact and move in certain areas. Because although I understand that doesn't really apply over hard work and consistent and patient, blah, blah, blah. There are other people who that's as far as they get, you know what I'm saying? And then things like, political party, I also don't really identify either way. For a while, I think I leaned more towards the left side, but in that same light, that was societal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I say certain things so people say, "Oh, you're there," so that's the only place I can communicate from and stuff. And I think as I've gotten older, I've learned how to communicate from that actual place of independence. But that takes time and education and knowing who's swaying you here and who's swaying you there and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, in general, it's a journey, you know.
It is. 'Cause how you identify changes in a sense. Not so much, I believe, your core and who you are, because that's essential to who you are. But your identity will change depending on like the part of the journey that you're in. Currently, without me revealing right now, I'm going to be in a space to where my identity is going to change in a minute, but family wise and everything like that. But I do like what you brought up, because it's how you're also seen. So like that was that second part of the question, because you are a certain way. Oh, you are yourself, and you're gonna see yourself one way. But no matter when you leave that door, somebody is gonna see you one specific way. And recognizing like what room you in is important, but there are challenges to where like, do you remain self, or does somebody conform? And we see it all the time. Work, people change with internet and social media being about, you're also seeing something that you want to be or something that you might want to identify with. And we've spoken on previous episodes before, when you're not being yourself, it's gonna show. So I do think I want to ask a second question is, how does society look like to you guys today, and how are people like identifying with fuelers being like politics, fuelers being religion, and just also the internet being so accessible? Being an age of information when everything is there. Like, do you feel like it has a big influence? Well, of course, it has an influence on influencers, bloggers and stuff like that. I mean, even to some degree, like, we were influenced even do the video portion in a sense, so there's always that. But I guess, where do you see like challenges in like today's society as far as identity? Which is very broad. I know it's a broad question.
I think it's a complicated answer for me, because especially lately, I've been trying to step back more and like training myself to have more of a bird's eye view than I may have had before. And, there's some areas where I want to say, oh, we're in a terrible spot, especially when I look at the influence of the internet, because the benefit of the internet to me has always been the access of information. But like where we are today, I have learned how like having access to all the information in the world doesn't mean that you have accurate information. It doesn't mean that you're getting that information from a responsible source who's laying out everything, instead of, some places they like to take out some things that kind of put their side in question, and vice versa, blah, blah, blah. And you see how easy it is to sway people by doing things like that. You see how easy it is to sway people just by saying you represent their religion, whether or not you actually live like that or not. Certain ideologies, and the internet just kind of makes it really easy for those types of people to spread. So it's like I'm kind of in the middle, because I also see the positives. I see a lot of how, certain positive perspectives would not have gotten as far without the internet, without the way we connect with each other, the way we communicate with each other today. The whole concept of communication itself wouldn't be as universal if we didn't have this much connection with each other, but it also fuels the negativity as well. And it's like, when I try to weigh out whether or not like we're in a better state relative to the past and all that stuff, I think to the past. And it's like, in some areas, it's kind of easy to say yes, because it wasn't as easy to lead people so collectively. But at the same time, the same things happen throughout history. It's just like, we can see it on a broader scale, and we can see that like, you don't have to be smart to do it anymore. You just got to have the right message and be around the right people. But all throughout history, this is what it is. We are a gullible species, because In most cases, we just want to be right and we just want to be comfortable. If we can get both of them things at one time, we're going to turn our head to everything else, you know? So I don't know if I can say if we're really in a good space or a bad space right now. And I can't really say what it is compared to the past. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like, it's an active reflection right now, you know? So like, I might have an answer next month, you know?
Then that's probably the best answer that we have on it.
When I look at it, because I used to be extremely active in social media, there are a lot of pros and cons, as there is for everything. But I look at it like it's just like going into a restaurant. Wherever you want to go, you'll get served if you walk into the place. So there's the algorithms with like social media. It really just showcases you what you say that you're interested in. So if you're interested in negativity, it's going to feed you as much of it as you can consume. And the same could be said for positive information too. Like when I'm scrolling through like my social media, or for example, I'll use my YouTube, like you just see a bunch of positive influencers. You see a lot of people that are like former military, motivational speakers, people that are like giving you sales advice, because that's what I'm most interested in. So I feed my mind things that are positive. So my social media is a reflection of that. So getting the access, it's a lot easier to access certain information with having the internet, social media. So if you're going to interact with it in a positive way, I think it opens up so many different avenues. You can network with like other influencers. You can get on LinkedIn. You can join these Facebook groups. I'm in like 5 or 6 different groups to where people are just feeding me information about my business, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical. I got book recommendations from people I've never met that are across the world that have had 50 years of experience. I can talk to these people because they can relate to me. Now, if this was in 1950, I wouldn't have access to have these conversations with these people. And these conversations are going to be like the foundational piece for me, my children being successful, because instead of me having to wait and get 50 years worth of experience in the field, I got that 50 years in a 50-minute conversation. So I can teach my kids that. They can teach their future kids that. I can tell a brother or sister, and when I say brother or sister, I mean of any race, because I feel like that's what allows us all to achieve certain things, being open and communicating with people. And if you're open to those things, you can get access to everything. Everything is at your fingertips. And that's a huge difference from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, to where so much of the information was like locked in a box. And if you didn't fit a specific model, you didn't get that information. Now you could be a homeless man on the street. If you got internet access going by Wi-Fi at McDonald's, you can go through all these things. You can read books online. It's free. There's so many different things that you can take advantage of, to where there's no excuse for whatever it is that you're in the pursuit of to not have some type of like actions or some type of progress towards whatever it is that you want. At this point, if you don't have some type of motion, it's not because of the man. It's not because of your job. It's not because of your family. It's because of that very person that's in the mirror that's making a conscious decision to scroll. And I was looking at this earlier, so I'm going to use it as an example of somebody frying a donut with an egg, or looking at somebody doing something on like a reality TV show, which I don't do that. But like, there's so many different things that can consume your time, and that fluff will keep coming to you. It's the all-you-can-eat buffet, baby. If you keep eating, they're going to keep serving until you flip that card over.
So if I heard you correctly, sir, if you want to see how you identify, I can just go to my feed.
Go to your feed, big dog. You can think a lot of stuff.
So everybody, for the viewers at home, if you want to see what type of person you are, go through your feed, see what it's been feeding you.
You can talk that positive shit all you want to, but if you look at your feed and you seeing, we know what it is, big dog. You ain't got to lie.
The world's not nothing, because all I'm seeing is everybody fighting all the time. So-and-so fronting on here, looking like they're going somewhere. They're not really going anywhere.
And when you say that, I'm like, okay, what's your algorithm? What you been getting? Let me look at your search bars.
Oh, wait, let me check your story. Oh, there goes something positive for 20 seconds. Those affirmations with no follow through. So, like, that's another, and we spoke about that plenty of times in other episodes too. But it'll never get old because it'll always continue to grow. But that's where I see a lot of people trying to identify with being the better person. I'll say that for sure, right?
Mhm.
You always want to be one, like you said, right? Successful in a good sense. What I got a lot from what you were doing, or what you were saying as well, is like trying to be better about your situation. A big thing we do talk about on here is accountability.
Dun, dun, dun.
Boy, oh boy. If you are not an accountable person, I will 100% tell you now, this is not the podcast for you. Not the podcast for you. Because if I wasn't an accountable person, I wouldn't be on this mic. But a lot of it is, that so much information feeding at once. I do believe it can be kind of confusing, and to an individual who's is trying to find themselves. It's so easy to relate with what you think is cool, what you think is going to be successful, and then try to identify with that and not have all the right proper fueling or the information or mentoring, even in a sense too. A lot of people don't believe in mentors now.
Mhm.
I won't say a lot of people I've seen. I'll be fair, and within my bias.
Okay, because I was going to say, I know.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that when I was just online, and there's plenty of mentors online. A lot of people are following them online. No,
Yeah, because like in every tier of like where my business model is, like somebody had a mentor.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But the world is vast, so you can find any percentage for.
Yeah, there's always going to be numbers that reflect your stance.
Exactly.
That's one thing I'm starting to see too, and I think that's where my hesitations come. It's like I'm really starting to pay attention to how many people like just in this country alone exist. And then when I double back and I think about like the pages I follow, the influencers I pay attention to and stuff, like I look at them and the good ones, the really good ones are 1 million views, 2 million views, stuff like that. There's 300 million people in this country, so and I think that's where like my head has been locked in on that a lot more lately. And it's like, man, I was really looking at these guys like, oh man, you showing everybody off that milli, but you're way less than 1%. This is way less than 1% of our entire country that's even paying attention to this message right now. So it's like we have this access, but we don't have like, I guess like when you were talking about mentors, we don't have like guidance towards these things. Like, we're lucky in the sense of we've been raised in areas and environments where these mindsets are more considered and more normalized. So it was easy for us to get introduced to them and adapt them as we see fit, especially when it comes to mindsets towards success, self-discipline, accountability. We've all had that around us the majority of our lives in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of people that don't got nobody around them that's doing anything substantial, So when they're taught how you got to live and blah, 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 it's a very limited lesson versus some of the stuff we naturally have access to just because where we're at, like, for example, I've been to libraries, I've used libraries, and I have all my friends are readers and they use the library. I had the least understanding of what all I could do with the library out of all of us until recently. Like I said, I showed you that and I showed it to Ariel. She's like, oh yeah, they do this and do this. I do this all the time. And I'm like, what? I stopped going to the library because I wanted to own my books. I didn't know that I could be learning languages. I ain't had to pay for Babbel, but I did. So I got it now. So I'm going to use it, but I could have just learned it at the library, but it's like me being that close and I just never had somebody with that extra information bring up that information. So it's like, now I can't imagine how many other people are out there that are nowhere near a library that don't know that it's even possible to go online and get your library card and get involved in that education and stuff.
For free.
But since we're on mentors, shout out to my mentor, Uncle Todd. What's good, my brother?
Shout out to you, sir.
But it is interesting to see like everybody's different like opinions on like mentorship, and some people just aren't open to it. Like if you're at a job and your boss or your supervisor or whoever it is, whatever the title is called, if you're not receptive towards them trying to give you constructive criticism, it's going to be extremely challenging for you to accept mentorship from anybody. Because if you can't follow your leadership when they're trying to give you examples of how you can improve, because there's always somebody that's in every workplace that feels like they know everything. And sometimes they'll sacrifice winning for being right. And it really just depends on how you want to interact with certain things. If you don't want to take a lot of constructive criticism, it limits where you can go in your future, unless you're going to hit the lottery and you don't have to interact with anybody or XYZ. Those unrealistic what ifs. I hate what if scenarios. Like I don't really like talking about what didn't happen because chances are, but we can only really deal in the reality of the situations, and you can't really play in the imaginary world of no one ever having anything negative to say about you. And it just doesn't work out like that. And sometimes trying to keep it real goes wrong really quick if you don't have emotional control. And I think that's something that, just depending on the environment that you grew up in, you're not always given the guidelines of how you can control your emotions, because emotional control is so much of the battle in the workforce, of being able to talk through your feelings in a positive way, to be able to receive someone else's feelings in a positive way, digest it in a way to where you respond without offending someone. And understanding that it's okay to respectfully disagree in environments. I think sometimes we're so caught up on the optics of looking right, thinking that's going to help you like level up in a certain way, which doesn't necessarily always do. It just makes you look like a very disgruntled employee. It makes you look like you're not coachable, which if you want to get to that next tier, a lot of us start in entry level positions and we only perform entry level work. Like, sometimes in order to get to where you want to go, and you learn this through like leadership or having a mentor, you may have to do some things for free. And that's just showcasing your abilities. Like it's a tryout. Sometimes you got to try out for whatever position in life that you want for a little bit, show those people, those higher ups, that you can do certain stuff. And then eventually you get what you want. But I think it's really easy to get caught up in, oh, they ain't paying me for that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Like if my job was to ask me to run through a wall, Robbie Rob is running through a wall. If they give me specific instructions of how they want something killed, like, hey, we want you to do it just like this. Okay, so exactly how you do it from A to Z is how I'm going to approach it. Some people feel like they know more than the person that's giving them the instructions. Well, hey, back here, I used to kill stuff like this. Maybe we can kill it like that. But I didn't ask you to kill it like that. So you know more than me now. Okay, so how should we do it? Then you explain it. Do that shit like I asked you the first thing. Now somebody's getting mad. Whereas you got to be coachable. Like, and this is something I feel like is, if you have this bag, you should go into it more. If your higher ups ask you to do certain stuff and it's within your skill set to do it and perform it, do it flawlessly, do it consistently. Show them that whatever it is they want you to do, you're willing to do it with a smile. If and I'll drop it over to X, but if y'all know Jim Ron, he said something that was really cool. He's like, hey, when you work at McDonald's, you get $7 an hour. If you do it with a smile, you might get 8.25. So sometimes your attitude, your mindset with how you interact with your environment, whether you're dipping fries or cleaning toilets, if you do it with a smile, people start to notice it.
So I think I have a question pretty much both of y'all can answer. One thing I feel is a hindrance to people trusting mentorship is not trusting other people's intentions with leadership. And I don't know how much of that would be personal experience and how much of that would be just seeing or hearing stories of, poor leadership, people who fake like they're like this and they're really not trying to give you anything, or the ones that gas you up as being the best employee but never allow you those actual opportunities. So, on one side, I wonder how much of that is an actual fear where it's not that you don't want mentorship, it's that you don't know if you can trust this person to be your mentor. And so it's like, do I invest the time and effort and then potentially be wasted here and not have the opportunity elsewhere, blah, blah, blah. So I guess my first question would be there. And then my other one would be, how much do you guys think, because it sounds like in general, what you were saying was the biggest hindrance we have, which I think I agree with mostly, is ego and emotion. We tend to allow ego and emotion to take priority over the actual getting the job done, actual accountability, actual responsibility, logic, so on and so forth. How much of that do you think is in response to the internet? Because I guess particularly social media, how I look at it is at some point in time, a lot of people have developed this confidence that, you know, I can be the one at something. And it's just about figuring out how to do it. You know, I've had friends in the past that'll be like, oh, I'm not reading no book because if they did it and figured it out, then I can just go out there and figure it out. And it's like, you know, on a primal level, you're absolutely right. To another angle, you could cut out half of the challenges and difficulties they had by just listening to the challenges and difficulties they had and what they learned from it. And then you can jump in there with a better understanding and build on top of that. And that's how I look at it, of course. But some people, they're just like, I don't want to trust anybody else's words because they're trying to steer my reality based on them. And I need to be the one to figure it out. So when I tell my story, it's me. You know what I'm saying? So how much do y'all think is that directly influenced by the internet versus how we may have been beforehand?
Gotcha. I do think, yeah, I believe when I was thinking about it, I was like, what does hinder somebody from wanting, you know, a mentor for one? So I do think for both questions, I think it's a big influencer now. As far as social media be a big influence on your mentor. I do think another issue is like not knowing who to choose as your mentor, or the people that are like looking up to mentors end up choosing the wrong ones, and you choose the wrong ones based off of what you think, what you want, you know, in a sense. So like I'll see somebody on social media, right? Somebody who I see all their success in a sense. I really want to be like that person. So you're looking to that person almost as if the mentor. You're following their steps, their routines, blah, blah, blah. They're not breaking it down to you. That's going to be the first bad step of choosing like your mentor for one. They're not breaking it down to you. You're not seeing a progress plan. You don't have anything going like in the works. And it's, you know, for the results that you want to see for yourself, that's realistic to you. That's the biggest thing I'm trying to get to. Unrealistic planning and you know, goals that aren't really attainable to some people, and looking for false mentors, I do believe is a bad thing. I think social media plays a big part in that too, because again, it's too much information. You know, you're not knowing exactly where to look. And when you hear something from a mentor, somebody that actually probably could put you in the right space, most of the time that critiquing is something you don't want to hear. And the first thing you're looking for is wanting to be told how to do something the way you thought it was supposed to go, right? And as soon as you hear a challenging idea, or somebody brings a thought or perspective that you don't necessarily agree with, or you couldn't see happening, that's outside of your own perspective, I think that's challenging to people, to where they'd be like, well, I mean, you're not really trying to help me then. You know, it goes into that, I want to be right. I went into this thinking this is how it's going to be, but then a good mentor is going to be like, hey, look, you didn't notice this. You're actually doing this, and this is not right. You know, this is not good. And a lot of people now with the want to be right, the no accountability, fall into that pocket of, okay, you're not really trying to help me. You know what I'm saying? You're not telling me what I want to hear. This isn't good. No, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's, you know, that I don't have enough time in a day to do that. Blah blah. Good mentor, like, why don't you? Let's pull up your day. No, I'm okay. Let's just this is not. Instead of being open book, like Lamar was saying, follow like that leadership, taking actual good critique and advices. Open up your day. Let's go through it. Why can't you do it? Right? From 8 to 10, what are you doing? You wake up 8:30. Interesting. Okay. What are you doing from 8:30 to 9? You're still in bed. Cool. So no time to do things. Nice. What are you doing from 9 to 9:15? Or you got up to brush your teeth for 15 minutes? You know, and of course I'm just, you know, making a joke out of it. But it's real life. You really have to sit down and find your time in the day, break it down, and be open to knowing that like your routine is not the best for you for the results that you want to get. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it, I do believe, is influenced on what people are seeing and the success that they want to get. The mentoring thing, for like for the first portion of your question, not knowing like, or not trusting what people are telling you. I think it's how you observe, you know, how you observe the world really, and what you're looking at and what you're opening yourself to. I think that's a big portion of that from my answer. But
I like both. One thing that sticks out to me though is with people and how they interact with their mentors. Mentor is not going to be your babysitter. So there's a huge difference between someone micromanaging you and looking at the entire list of what your daily routines are, like waking up, brushing teeth, eating breakfast. Like, I feel like that's a little different. I feel like with having a mentor, you should already be heading towards like a specific direction, meaning you have some type of motion already in place. So they're going to be giving you homework. So it's not as much your babysitter as they are teachers. So they're teaching you different things to allow you to study. So that way, like when you're in the field, like it's first nature for you to do certain things. You don't even have to think about it, kind of like we were talking about on the Atomic Habits, to where you're practicing. Like in sports, there's no such thing as a perfect design, but you're supposed to do specific things over and over and over and over again. So that way, when you get in specific situations that are going to hit you with counters, your first reaction is, cool. When shit starts to break down, because everything always breaks down. Again, there's no such thing as a perfect execution for everything, but the perfection comes in like, oh, hey, well, don't panic. Let me do X, Y, and Z to score. I'm taking it back off of the sports reference, but like, you have to be willing to be self-motivated as well. Do I think social media has a huge influence over that? To me, not really, because people in every decade have had different ways that they could fantasize about becoming successful. Like, people had access to TVs, and maybe it wasn't on your phone, it was in the newspaper. Maybe it wasn't on the newspaper, it was on like the news on TV. Like, there's always going to be something that somebody romanticizes with in terms of just getting an outcome. I think sometimes when you follow people on social media or in any other aspect of where you can only see their end game, you're only following the successful stuff. Like, but with the mentor, if you are picking the right mentor, for me, like, you're seeing someone that you aspire to be like, to where, again, there's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as perfect situations, but how they interact in certain environments, how they think, and the successful aspects of certain stuff. Like, what are they feeding their minds? Like, what are they feeding their spirits? Like, what do they do when they're sad? What do they do when they're mad? And again, you're supposed to have someone that you want to try to copy, but as you're copying, you're supposed to be like molding this into your own version of it. Like, as much as I love you, Uncle Todd, I'm not trying to do everything Todd does, but Todd does some really cool things and really in like specific areas that are like his bag. I want to look in that bag, some gold in that bag. I want to borrow some of that gold and make it fit in my bag. And as I start studying and doing different things, I can interact with what he's teaching me, what he's giving me to study independently, start merging some of that stuff. And then we got Rob's bag. And then you can start being an influencer to other people and showing them that if you study, if you do the right things, there's a lot of positive that can come out of it. I know you asked the second part of your question. I'm trying to replay it back to myself now.
You kind of disagree with the second part, which is funny. You answered the second part, but I would almost like that second part is interesting, and I agree with a portion. I almost want to challenge the fact that like you said, no for the social media. I think the example was like their social media for their time though, with the TV and everything like that. Because when you do get influence, if all you did have was the newspaper, all you did have was the TV, in that sense, that's where they're looking. But to your sense, but to what you said too about fantasizing, that is 100% a people thing, regardless of like where you look. But I think the influence comes when you fantasize, and then you see that one thing that catches the same thing that lined up with your like you're fantasizing. It's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, it does. It makes some people jump. Like, looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, man, I would. But I think that same bag could be applied to like somebody watches Denzel. Like, I would love to be an actor like Denzel, but he's on the couch. Like, you don't got no motion. Like, or there's somebody that's like, I would love to be like LeBron James. Like, and I hate speaking on like people what they're fantasizing about, but you have some hoopers that wanted to be just like Jordan, wanted to be just like Kobe, wanted to be just like LeBron, but the only thing that they omitted was the work. Like, I had a buddy to where we would legitimately have conversations about like fantasy football. I mean, like him playing the sport, not like him being on his phone. So, man, I could have been like this in high school. We're like 15 years removed from that, my brother. Like, at some point, you gotta let that go. Maybe you should be a commentator, do something like that. But like, I guess it all just plays. So again, my thing is, I feel like social media just makes you more of who you are. I don't feel like as a grown adult, anything should have that much control over you to where like unless you're basing it off of like positive things, to where like if that influencer is giving you a step-by-step guideline, like you should study this, you should study that. But I think it's a lot easier to to go on the online portal and get that interaction, because if you do it with a real person, it's going to look a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So Big Ellie just said he don't understand all y'all weak-minded folks out there. It don't make sense to him. No, I get it.
Basically, if you're not influencing yourself,
It's like, I did it. Like, I respect it.
I mean, it is just a reality. Like, and that's again why I say that we're blessed because we're surrounded by people of stronger mindsets that are able to push past some of just what they're given and actually come to their own conclusions, especially when it comes to navigating your own life and how to live. There's a lot of people that just don't do that. They're on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
They get a job because they're supposed to get a job. They get an apartment because they're supposed to get an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
They go out and celebrate on the weekends because that's what you're supposed to do on Fridays and Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
So when they hop on the internet, they're being taught further what they're supposed to do based on what they see in the world. Sometimes it is positive. Sometimes they are following the right people and they're like, yo, read a book or do this, work on your house garden, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times, because of how we romanticize like drama, for example, like as a species, we romanticize drama a lot. So it's like, it's really easy to get into those pockets where all the drama is normal to you. So every time you see it, that's what the world looks like. And then that's how you act in your regular life. You might still think, like, I know people like this who their general personality is positive, but how they deal with situations, absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You go out to a party with them, you're at an event or something, great conversation, great energy, blah, 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 blah. But don't do anything personal with them, ever. Because the more you interact with them, the more you realize they don't have the emotional control to deal with certain difficult situations. They don't have the humbleness to engage in proper relationship dynamics with people, blah, 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 blah. And they don't have all these things because they went to the internet or whatever TV shows they've watched, and that's real life to them now because they already romanticize some of these perspectives, and it's just been constantly validated with no buffer because they don't have mentors in their personal life. They don't have anybody to show them like, that's cool. That's real life. It does happen. It shouldn't always be happening. If it's always happening, there is something you're doing to encourage that in your own life. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, even when people try to emulate successful people, that I want to be like Denzel, most of them built that off of watching phenomenal performances. They didn't build that off of seeing him behind the scenes and seeing all the times that he got turned down for acting jobs and stuff like that, and seeing how many different approaches. Like, I've watched some of these actors' little audition tapes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And some of them are way more talented than we'll ever know because we've only seen the roles that they actually got approved for. We didn't see all the ones they applied for, all the different personalities they've taken on, so on and so forth. And when you start looking through those, you're like, yo, like,
it's different.
He's been on Broadway, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know he had that phase, blah, blah, blah. But there's so much that goes into building that type of discipline and consistency that we never get to see because you can't build that while also trying to show it to the world. You don't have time for that. If you're really trying to be something great, your system is not about do this and let them see it. Your system's got to be about do this, do this, do this, do this. Otherwise you're not there because especially, we're in a capitalist society. In most dynamics, whatever you're striving for, there's somebody else out there working for it too. Mm-hmm. And if you're not doing everything you can, somebody else is doing everything they can. And that might be the one difference between you getting that spot and you sitting here thinking you never had the opportunity when in reality, it was only a couple spots left and the ones that wasn't playing no games got it.
That's how it always is with anything that you want. Like if you have that hyper focus and you're willing to commit day in, day out, because there's always that one, regardless of like what job you have, in my role, is that one call that you don't make, is that sale that you don't get because you let your feelings dictate what level of energy you were going to invest into your profession. I think the one cool thing about having a mentor is you do get to see that negative aspect of certain things. Like you get to see like the highs and the lows. I've had conversations with people that are in like the sales industry, and they talk about some of the negative things that go along with it, but it's so many positives that go along with it as well. But we already know that. But just hearing about like the time that you have to be willing to invest, and sometimes that investment comes at the cost of your family, your loved ones. You may not make every event. You have to be comfortable with not being home sometimes days at a time, going to travel, going to make these connections and networking with people. That's the side of the industry that you don't see. And social media doesn't normally highlight that, but that's just people in general. People normally highlight the highlight reels, like with touchdowns and point scores, and some people don't even like watching NBA games. They just look at the box scores. Some people don't like looking at the NFL games. They just look at the box score. Like people like to see the end result. Sometimes the process of the game, which is 2.5 hours, sometimes 3, especially if you got these whack ass halftime performers. Like there's going to be things that people just don't have the attention span or just don't want to invest time into. And having that mentor shows you what you're signing up for, if it's a legitimate one. So like if you want to be an influencer, if you want to be the best dental hygienist or whatever role it is that you have, you get to see that negative stuff. And that's the part that people don't really want to see, because that would turn off a lot more people that think they're invested into doing certain stuff just from the level of difficulty. Like, oh, he gonna talk to me like, what? She gonna talk to me like, I gotta do that? What you want me to do? You know who I like? Sometimes the amazing thing is people have ginormous egos to have accomplished absolutely nothing in life. And the sad part is like, bro, you got the most potential in the world, but your ego, you won't allow it. And if anybody wants to read a really good book by Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy. But like, if you're not willing to put your ego in the back seat, sometimes it just stunts your growth. And then you'll be that same person at 36 that's about this tall, still trying to reach up and grab the rim, or still jumping up for certain stuff when you had the ability to grow. And the beautiful thing about God's grace and God's blessings is it's never too late. Like you may stop growing physically, but I remember what I was going to say now. I'm going to jump off that, where you were like, hey, what if I don't like my pulse? I was trying to remember it, but and what if I put all this work into it and nothing comes out of it? Beautiful thing is, even if you don't get the position that you want at that job, it's not like they take the knowledge from you when you don't get it. So sometimes you're dressing your resume up for the next job, for the next person that's going to see all the growth that you've made. So yeah, maybe the information they gave you or maybe the task they gave you wasn't for good, but God's grace and what God's plan is for you is going to be study, learn every single thing they're going to be willing to teach you, do it for free. But what you're doing for free today, you're going to get paid 2 times more because it looks great on your resume. And as you're doing that, ask them more questions. Sometimes people don't understand you're getting game from them. They just think, oh, he's super helpful today. Write that shit down. Oh, okay, so I should do this right here and do that. Then start doing those evaluations with them as you're doing that free work. Because again, this is setting you up for the future. Hey, did I do that the right way? Oh, no, you should do it like this next time. Oh, okay, you think that'd be smoother? So that'd make me more of an efficient worker? Hell yeah. Okay, cool. Then 2 years from now, or 16 months or 18 months, don't be afraid to invest into it long term. Walk into the office like, hey, I love the opportunity you gave me. I think I found somebody that's a better suitor. Unless you guys would like to give me a counter, I appreciate the learning opportunities. Somebody else is willing to pay me for everything that you didn't do, but I appreciate the opportunity you gave me to do it.
I think what I was getting a lot from both of you too was like the measure of something. I think we, even as a society too, like we measure too much success instead of trying to measure the work. And when you're constantly trying to measure that success, you're inaccurate. You look at the wrong things, very inaccurate. So a lot of that stood out to me. Like while you both were speaking, like, man, you're going to a goalpost and you don't have the map to get there, the correct one. You're going off an idea of something, which we see a lot of, an idea with no follow-up, no work that goes behind it. So measure the work. That's, measure the work. It's never fun. It's not supposed to be fun, really. You got to get to the point where it is fun, but it does take work. And that's where your mentors are there for as well. So even with the identity, to a specific degree, when you identify as something, like you're going to be measured to that as well. Like even here as a podcast, we we talk as a collective. You know, we have an aim to be thoughtful, open-minded, you know, and express thought. So we're going to be, you know, held to that degree, or, you know, we're going to be measured to that degree, to the point that we start sounding linear, or like, you know, I say today, like, this ain't the podcast for you if you can't be accountable. And then, like, and then somebody brings up an X, you know, you're wrong about. Now I wasn't. Nah.
You just hear me wrong.
And then both of us like, wait, who you talking to?
Social media.
Are you getting tied up in the comments?
Controller of all emotions.
I mean, it sure is impulsive. You take that mic from in front of him. Oh boy!
I thought we were trying to disprove how controlling social media. Damn.
Oh. Welcome to the video section, homie.
We're gonna have to put comments disabled for you boys. What did they say today? Just say. That's how you know somebody got thin skin whenever you look at their videos and comments are disabled. Damn. So you really ain't like that.
Accountability folded swiftly.
Bro, that kills. Yo, I swear. It's like, I've seen posts that, like, the few times that are on, when you turn off that comment section, but you have a message to pass, you don't want to be checked.
Boy, I don't got time for it today.
In one aspect, I can almost respect that, like, almost respect that you can be like, look, I'm putting this on here just for my thought. I don't really want to hear feedback for it, right? And this is what it is. You know, I'm just putting it out there. Hope get something from it.
Mm-hmm.
My side eye is, why didn't you just keep it to yourself then? You know, like,
so you want to be heard, but you don't want to be responded to.
Yeah, like, you gotta be mindful of where you're venting to. You know what I mean?
And I think, you know, I don't even know necessarily if I look at that process of decision making as negative per se, because when I see people do that, I think I look at it as, you're standing on it. Okay. You know, at least, like, if you open up the comments, you're giving people room to challenge, especially if you actually engage with them. Like, if you have a general engagement, that means you believe in this, but you're willing to test that thought, you know, which is commendable regardless of where you stand. But when you turn them comments off, for me, it's like, all right, you chose to stand on this no matter what's being said. You don't care what I have to say, blah, blah, blah. You don't care what they have to say. So it's like, now I know, like, whatever pocket that's in, I know that it's always going to be somewhat limited information from you, because you've been very clear that you don't intend to test if you're actually right about this or not. You know, so it's like, I don't really look at it as negative, because it's where you want to be. So,
man, when I look at it, I don't look at it as negative or positive, but I do look at it from the standpoint of, like, I understand what my expectation of you would be. Like,
that's the measure.
You're very. You feed your own ego. Like, you are very interested in being heard, which is cool. I mean, sometimes you could be right. Sometimes you could be wrong. I wouldn't want to converse with you, so I couldn't be a follower of your videos or your content in a world where you feel like the only thing that matters is your opinion, because you leave no room to be wrong. And and lastly, I think it is a cowardly attitude. That's just how I see it. To where, if I'm being transparent, I feel like it's a cowardly act, because that's almost like that bully in school that likes to pick on the kid that doesn't really want to talk. It's like, oh, you want to pick on me, but you don't want somebody to pick on you that's your own size. So you take that disabled off. Maybe you're attacking somebody and you're just skinning them. You don't want to be skinned because you have thin skin. That's just how I see it.
No, it's fair. And I think, you know, where my assessment really comes from is the few that I've seen where you turn a comment or a comments off, basically, it's your message can be challenged. That's where my sideline comes from. You know, like, to your point, you can stand 10 toes down. That's fine. You can do that, and you can say what you want. That's why I'm like, you know, I respect that you want to put it out there. That's cool. I don't respect that, you know, you don't want to be challenged wrong. Because one thing is, I may not be able to comment here, but your wall and post is still open. So you believe?
No, hey, big homie, we work together, big dog.
Hey, Yo, like I seen that video you was talking about, so you might want to explain that to me.
Honestly, I don't think you're as strong as your commitment as you think you are, because maybe you think I might be able to influence you with my opinion.
That's like, let me put this on my life.
That's just like the guy that has the girl, but he don't want to post her nowhere because you think she too fine. No, don't wear that dress. Somebody gonna try to take you from you. Well, if you confident, big dog, I mean.
I will say for me, the difference would be if it's general, if it's you giving a general perspective on something, I think that fits more in the ballpark of what I was referring to. If it's something where you're directly targeting somebody or trying to call out, or, oh, this is happening and they're doing this and blah, 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 and you turn them comments off, yeah, that's 100% cowardly to me, because you're directly impacting somebody else and trying to avoid repercussions or accountability of what you might have done in their life at that point. And I'm not with that at all. The other ones I don't like is the ones that'll be like, if you don't like me, unfollow me or delete me or block me, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to say what I want to say. Like, usually when somebody makes that statement, that's something you could have kept to yourself. But that's an emotional decision. Yeah. Emotion and ego. I have to say this, so I need to preface it with a disclaimer saying, hey, I know some of y'all ain't going to like this, so you can go ahead and delete me. So it's like, okay, you don't want to be challenged and you want to be an asshole.
I feel like that one's a little different. Like, that's like, unless they're disabling the comments and that, like, I don't understand this. Well, yeah, let me say, it's not that I don't understand. I don't agree with it. Let me change the verbiage. But when you have to give someone a disclaimer like that, I know you're not going to like, bro, just post it. Or to X's point, to where, like, if you really feel like you got to disable something, just keep it to yourself. Like, I feel like sometimes a lot of things that are displayed on social media, whether, especially like those high emotional pools, because people just are drawn, like you were saying, to I think they're drawn to conflict, which is a version of drama. Like, bro, just keep that shit to yourself. Like, everybody doesn't have to know everything that you're thinking every moment of the day.
But we don't have journals anymore.
You do on your phone.
Facebook is our journal.
Dear diary. Everybody's stupid.
I think for me, the reason why that one resonates negatively with me more, because at least when you cut off the comments, it's kind of neutral, where it's just like, this is where I'm at. When you don't disable the comments and you just tell everybody who's potentially against you to, hey, block me or get away from me, to me, that translates to, this is more ego than anything, because this is an emotional decision, but I want everybody to agree with who agrees with me to have an opportunity to show themselves. I need that affirmation on top of this statement. So I'm going to keep this open for them. If y'all show up, y'all can get out of here. And if you get on there and try to talk to me and communicate perspectives, I'm just going to tell you in the comment underneath to just block me then. Why are you on my page? Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to engage with you because my only goal here is to engage with the other people who also agree with this perspective, you know, which in translation usually on Facebook means I want to be their voice now. I want to find the other people that are like me and think this way, and I'm about to voice all of our thoughts. You know, it's like with Facebook, you're essentially trying to make your own platform at that point. You know what I'm saying? And it's for your little collective of I guess, small-mindedness, for lack of better terms, because you don't want to engage with anybody, you know? So I think that's why that one hits a little more negative for me, because of the implications I see behind it.
I can dig that.
Like, you're prepping your audience for negativity. That's always the biggest thing for me. It's like, you know, word choice is very big. So like, as soon as you come out with that, hey, y'all gonna hate me. Like you said, like, just post it first, you know, because tone, how you package it, how you say it is one whole thing. But when you start that, you're intentionally coming to be like, you know what, look, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's weird, but
that's funny though. That's like thinking about it from like different angles. It's like, hey, I'm inviting you all to my house, but I'm only making lasagna. So if you don't want lasagna, just don't come by.
Because you know off gate, Paul ain't showing up for no lasagna. Nope. And you didn't want him to.
I really want to just converse with my lasagna eaters.
Now I know a lot of you, mostly majority, of you have peanut allergies. There are peanuts in this, so you can. No, but like, yeah, it's just leave it at that because it's about that time. So
You make yourself the friendliest person in the
Right.
room, but just set it up so only 5 friends gonna show up.
the invite is friendly. You get there and then become the enemy real quick.
It's just like side note. I used to work at the mall, and I always thought it was crazy how I was Abercrombie and Fitch's and Hollister's where I worked, and they would alienate a specific demographic by making shirts that only went up to like a large for women or a large or a medium. But then there would be people that would come in there religiously. When are you guys gonna get some bigger sizes? When are you gonna do this? I'm like, man, and I would hate it for them because like they wanted to be a part of that so bad. But Abercrombie and Hollister were like, well, I don't know if this has changed. Maybe y'all have changed your sizing chart because I ain't been in there like 15, 16 years. But it was always crazy. It's like, which is essentially the same thing. It's like, hey, if you can't fit these clothes, like, we don't want you here. I mean, you can try to squeeze in here if you want to fit in with us, but it ain't meant for you, which is wild.
It is, but
And I hate that.
it's the truth. Well, to that note, first video. We the floor as ours identify as free thought, free speaking, and conversation, growth within conversation as we bring up topics, subtopics, and stuff like that. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed and keep rocking with us. It gets better, it definitely gets better. And for those that have always been rocking with us, here's your video. We told you we took a little break, trying to get it right. So we'll keep growing, we'll keep moving up. Shout out to my wife. Helping me with all the testing, the equipment. Love you, baby. Thank you. Shout out to the fam. So everybody that follows and listens, to the new followers that come on. We appreciate y'all being here. Continue to grow with us. Check back again on the floor is ours on I almost said something that's not correct. But Spotify, go on there. We'll have it in some other platforms as well soon. But Spotify for the most part, and at the floor is ours on IG. Any outings, brothers?
Hey, shout out to shout out to the family. Shout out to the work family. That's all I got.
Thanks.
God, that was pretty much the same. Shout out to the family. Shout out to the work family as well. Miss my babies. I've saw them today, but I got back from a road trip. So I just want to say that I appreciate all the opportunities that I've been given by God's grace. Also, all the listeners that are continuously making us a part of your routine. Definitely don't take that lightly. So it's definitely a privilege to be in your ears. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, wherever you're consuming the information, we definitely appreciate you and we look forward to growth. The first of many. Let's go.
That's it. Hold us accountable. Comment section, please.
Except me. Don't hold me accountable.
Comment section deleted.
All enough matters. Deleted a comment.
But just like that, we out.